The city remembered its crimes even when the people tried to forget. Detective Aaron Vale learned that on a rain-soaked Thursday morning when the call came in at 4:12 a.m., a woman's voice, thin, breathless, fractured, had dialed emergency services from a payphone that hadn't worked in years. By the time patrol arrived, the caller was gone. What remained was a body in an alley behind Holloway Street, posed like a question no one wanted to answer. The victim was male, late 30s, well-dressed, throat cut cleanly enough to suggest deliberation rather than rage. There was no wallet, no phone, no ID. The alley was narrow and claustrophobic, a throat itself between two brick buildings that amplified every sound. Vale stood there with his coat collar turned up, listening to the echo of dripping water, the distant hum of traffic, the city breathing around him. He noticed the detail that would not leave him. The victim's eyes were open, and his mouth was frozen in a shape that looked almost like surprise, almost like he'd been trying to say something. "Time of death?" Vale asked. "Between midnight and 2, the coroner replied. "Clean incision, sharp blade, single strike. Professional, or someone who wanted it to look that way." Vale nodded. He'd seen enough to know the difference was often academic. As the body was lifted, a patrol officer pointed toward the far wall. "Sir, you should see this." Scratched into the damp brick, shallow but intentional, was a single word. Echo back at the precinct. Vale stared at the crime scene photos while the city woke up outside. Coffee went cold in his hand. The word on the wall nagged at him, not because it was threatening, but because it was quiet. It didn't scream motive. It didn't beg attention. It lingered. "Echo," he muttered. Detective Lena Cross leaned against his desk, arms folded. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Feels like one," Vale said. "Any hits on missing persons?" "Nothing yet. No prints in the system either." "No prints. Gloves. Careful work." Vale leaned back. "So why leave the word?" Lena shrugged. "Killers like signatures. Signatures are loud." Vale said, "This is restrained." She studied him. "You're thinking it's a message." "I'm thinking it's a reminder." Vale didn't say of what. 10 years earlier, he'd worked a case that nearly ended him. 3 murders across 6 months. All seemingly unrelated, all marked by subtle auditory clues. A broken radio, a cracked window that whistled in the wind, a voicemail left blank except for background noise. The media called it the silence case. It was never solved. The second body appeared 3 days later. This time, it was a woman found in an abandoned subway tunnel scheduled for demolition. Early 40s, former corporate attorney, according to the ID in her purse. Left intentionally this time. Cause of death, blunt force trauma to the head. 1 strike, precise, on the tunnel wall, sprayed in neat white paint. Repeat. Vale closed his eyes when he saw it. "Same hand?" Lena asked. "Same mind," Vale replied. The tunnel amplified every sound. The echo of footsteps, the drip of water, the distant rattle of trains still running on neighboring lines. Vale imagined the killer standing there, listening, choosing the spot because of how sound behaved within it. "This isn't random," Lena said. "Victims don't connect." "They will," Vale said. "We just don't know how yet." He requested files from the silence case. Old photos, old notes, old interviews. As he flipped through them, patterns resurfaced like bruises under skin. Each victim back then had been linked to a civil lawsuit involving a whistleblower who died in a supposed accident. The name jumped off the page. Daniel Mercer. Vale's chest tightened. Daniel Mercer had been an audio engineer, brilliant, obsessive, idealistic. He worked for a private security firm that specialized in surveillance technology. When Mercer discovered illegal recordings, politicians, judges, corporate heads, he tried to expose it. 2 weeks later, he fell from his apartment balcony, ruled a suicide. Vale never believed it. The people Mercer had named in his report went on to live very comfortable lives. Lawsuits were settled, evidence disappeared, witnesses recanted, the victims now lying dead, all names from Mercer's original list Jesus, Lena whispered when Vale laid it out. So this is revenge? No, Vale said. It's restitution. There's a difference. To the killer, yes. Vale stared at Mercer's photo, a thin man with tired eyes and headphones perpetually around his neck. Someone who listened more than he spoke. Someone who heard everything. The third murder was announced before the body was found. A voicemail landed in the precinct's general inbox at 2:06 a.m. It contained no words, only the faint sound of breathing and a rhythmic tapping, like a metronome. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats. Vale listened to it again and again. That's Morse, Lena said quietly. 3, 3, Vale said. C for court. They arrived at the old municipal courthouse minutes before sunrise. Inside, they found the judge in his chambers, slumped over his desk. A single gunshot wound, close range, controlled, on the wall behind him, carved carefully into the wood paneling. Remember, the press exploded. 3 murders, 3 words, a pattern the public could almost see. The mayor demanded answers. Vale demanded silence. Forensic audio specialists traced the voicemail to a burner phone, but the sound signature told a different story. The echo profile suggested a small room with acoustic foam, like a recording studio. Vale knew only one person who still had access to Mercer's old studio, Elliot Crane, Mercer's former partner. Crane had testified years ago that Mercer was unstable, that the recordings were manipulated, that the fall was an accident. He now lived alone in a converted warehouse near the river. Vale and Lena went in quietly. Inside, the walls were lined with soundproofing, tape reels, digital recorders, screens showing waveforms frozen mid-spike. Crane sat in the center, headphones on, eyes closed. He didn't flinch when they entered. I wondered how long it would take. Crane said, removing the headphones. You always were a good listener, Detective Vale. You killed them, Lena said. Crane smiled faintly. I corrected an error. You lied, Vale said. You buried Mercer. Crane's smile faded. Mercer wanted noise, exposure, chaos. I wanted clarity. And murder, echoes, Crane replied. Actions have them, lies too. Crane didn't resist arrest. He spoke freely, calmly, like a lecturer. They destroyed him. Crane said in interrogation, and you let them. Vale absorbed the words like blows. We tried, you failed, Crane said. So I listened, I recorded, I waited. 10 years, Lena said. Justice takes time when the world is loud. Crane replied. Why the words? Vale asked. Echo. Repeat, remember. Crane leaned forward. Because that's how truth survives. What about the 4th word? Vale asked quietly. Crane's eyes flicked up. You heard that too. Vale felt it then. The missing beat in the pattern. There's one more name, Vale said. Crane smiled again. The final target wasn't on Mercer's list. It was on Vale's. Years ago, under pressure, Vale had signed off on the suicide ruling when evidence went missing. He told himself it was procedure. That there wasn't enough to go on. Crane had recorded that meeting, the sound of a pen scratching paper, the echo of a choice. Crane escaped custody during a blackout that night. Planned, inevitable. Vale found him on the Holloway Street rooftop where Mercer had died. You came alone, Crane said. Good acoustics. End it, Vale said. Crane held the knife but didn't raise it. Say it. Say what? That you heard him. Vale swallowed. I heard him. And you ignored it. Yes, the city roared below them, but between breaths there was silence. Crane stepped back, eyes closing. That's enough. He let himself fall. The case closed itself. The media called Crane a vigilante, a monster, a madman. Vale called him an echo. He reopened the Mercer investigation. Names resurfaced. Careers ended quietly. No more bodies followed. Sometimes, late at night, Vale listened to the city from his apartment balcony. Sirens, voices, wind between buildings. He listened for what remained unsaid. Because some sounds never die. They only wait to be heard, and the prime suspect had vanished.